And welcome back to the Blame Game. God, it feels good to be talking about gameplay again. It's been a struggle finding topics without the weekly matches. Week 1 was awesome with TL and EG exploding out of the gates to a 3-0 with CLG of all teams surprisingly keeping pace. Now, unfortunately, that means if some teams are overperforming, some teams are probably underperforming. We're going to be looking at Cloud9 in particular for this episode. Berserker and Sven are MIA dealing with import issues, and the substitute bot lane of King and Destiny got blasted in the comments. All 3 losses, the most upvoted Cloud9 related comment was about the bot lane. So let's dig into it. Game 1 was a super slow start to the game, and King and Destiny went basically even as TK Senna into as Karma, one of the most oppressive lanes around. Now, Senna TK is also an obnoxious lane, to be fair, but only losing 1 plate and going even at least shows that they were not an issue in the early game. Game 3, they got beaten up in trades in lane, which allowed Team Liquid to look for dives, but King and Destiny worked well with the rest of their team to turn a number of these plays around. They mostly came out even in CS and kills by the end, but unfortunately did lose their turret with a last second kill by Han Sama. Game 2 was their worst lane phase, getting 2v2 kill to fall behind initially, and the gank a little bit later with Blabber looking strangely uncoordinated. They also ended up losing their entire turret this lane phase because not only was the gank not even close to working, it gave a window for Golden Guardians to grab the Rift Herald on spawn with a Kale top. Out of lane phase, things didn't go much better for King. That slow game 1 came down to team fighting and yeah, multiple team fights of dying straight from the package. Now, it is hard to see in River, and I'm not saying that these team fights would have been won if he didn't die or other people weren't mistakes, but back-to-back fights like this are really tough to watch. If it's not clear by now, I'm obviously going to agree with some of the criticism about King's play. He was one of the worst performing bot laners this weekend. Now, that said, I also have to agree with my boy LS about the weekend for Cloud9. If you're hoping that the Cloud9 losses are just about the C9 substitute bot lane, well, there are plenty more issues to be found. It's not like King and Destiny are so terrible that a well-practiced Cloud9 should be losing the Golden Guardians. Going back to that Game 2 gank with Blabber, I blame Blabber just as much here, if not more so, for this timing window allowing Golden Guardians to grab the Rift Herald. At the second Rift Herald, it's Jensen who resets late, allowing Golden Guardians to burn the Herald down before they are really in a position to contest, though the bot lane could have sacked the wave mid lane to move over a little bit faster. Fudge and Blabber are the two that try and brute force stop it alone because they feel like the game is slipping away. It's then later Jensen's poor Yone play that turns it into a 1-for-2. Game 3 was going quite well actually for Cloud9 given the amount of scaling that they had drafted. They protected the bot lane for the most part to keep the overall gold close while securing dragons. Right before third dragon spawns, King steps too far up to contest a wave and he loses his flash, and Team Liquid used the Rift Herald to blow mid lane open, basically guaranteeing them to stop C9's dragon stacking. This is a clear call to sack the dragon and continue farming, but for some reason they double TP in to contest. They then go for the most absolute brute force engage into a comp with great mobility, who easily kited out and obliterate the front line. This also left the flashless King with nothing to do but charge in to assist the team and get flanked by Swain or hide back and do nothing. C9 must have thought they were much further behind than they were. I mean, I get it a little bit because you had lost your bot lane turret right at 14 minutes and the mid lane one just dropped here. It's a package window and you have a good team fight comp, but even without this terrible engage, they would have lost a slower played poke-oriented team fight as well because Corki stopped down for Hex Drinker. He doesn't have his Muramana / Luden spike completed, so his poke is minuscule compared to Ezreal's, and King is still on an item and a half. The call is clearly to sack Dragon, don't double TP in, and fight when the core items are completed on your 2 main carries. Unless you think that somehow King and Destiny are mind controlling the entire rest of the team, their performance alone cannot account for bad gank windows, poor champion mastery, incorrect reads on the game state, and over-aggressive engages. That's not to say that they weren't playing bad, but the #1 comment in each of the post-match threads about Cloud9 was this bot lane, and not the other issues that were occurring. Listen, many analysts expected Cloud9 to get off to a slow start given all the roster issues and swaps and whatnot. A 0-3 was not particularly unlikely given their tough strength of schedule against EG and Team Liquid on opening weekend. If all of the losses looked like the EG game, it would be a lot easier to overlook the record, but unfortunately, a lot of it looked disappointing as well. They aren't doomed yet, but the top side of the map deserves some criticism for the 0-3, and they're going to need to step up even when they get their main bot lane back to hit that peak that everyone's looking for them. That's going to do it for this week of the Blame Game. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, it was a great weekend. The games were fun. I really enjoyed my TriCast. I feel like there's a lot of interesting storylines going on in the LCS right now, and in particular, following up off this episode, I'm looking to see if Cloud9 can bounce back or if this loss streak is going to continue. Catch you guys next week.
You know, sometimes when it's your job to do something and you can't figure out how to do it because you filmed so many outros over the years, and now you're just awkwardly at the end of somebody's YouTube video and they're sitting there being like, is this really happening? Is he just saying he doesn't know what outro to do? Well, if you're like that, then you might want to consider getting an Alienware computer. Because if I had one in front of me right now, maybe I'd have like a script that I've written on it that would be something I could refer to instead of this weird ad-lib thing that I'm doing right now. No, honestly, Alienware's got great stuff. We've been using everything that they create for years for TGI. I can actually officially say that now because it's just been like literal years. There's 2 years that just now where I wasn't even out here and we were using their stuff to do remote interviews, and it was awesome. They allow us to create wonderful 4K videos like this one, and I really appreciate their support. So if you appreciate my videos, understand that we couldn't do it without them. So go check them out. There's a link in the description below.